Now, the world's top climate scientists have issued a stark warning this morning. It's now or never if the world is to stave off climate disaster. The IPCC has released its third and most critical report overnight. So basically, the first and second reports were looking at the cause and the impact of climate change. This one is the biggie because it's all about what we can do about it. So joining us now to discuss this is Ralph Sims. Ralph, thank you very much joining us from Massey University this morning. You've had a chance to have a look at the report this morning, I'm guessing. Just remind us briefly, though, let's go back to why this is important. Why do we need to cut greenhouse gases? And for those non-sciencey amongst us, what are they?
Yes, OK. Well, the main greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. That comes from burning of fossil fuels. In New Zealand, we've also got a lot of methane from our sheep and our cattle, and some nitrous oxide as well. So they're the main gases. We have to cut the carbon dioxide because that stays in the atmosphere for hundreds of years when it's released. But we're not all going to die. This report does give us solutions as to how we can reduce emissions. But the key message from it is that we have to start immediately pushing much harder than we've done before.
And it
so
puts
every
a lot
person
sorry, Ralph, it puts a lot of the onus on individuals, doesn't it? So it's saying that basically walk, stay home to work from home, use your car less. It's putting a lot of the onus on individuals.
Well, that's exactly right. Behavioural change was a key part of this report. This is my fifth IPCC report, and this one has put a much more emphasis on behavioural change and the co-benefits. So if we try to reduce our carbon footprints personally, and New Zealanders have one of the highest carbon footprints of any country in the world, so we have a commitment to reduce them, then you get co-benefits of improved health and less traffic congestion and better local air pollution and those sort of things as well. So we do have a responsibility. You
say we have a responsibility, though, but the Climate Change Minister has committed to, at COP26, 50% cut in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. This report recommends 43%. Now, since we made that pledge, actually, the Ministry of Environment, Treasury, MB have all expressed concerns about whether it's actually achievable. So can these cuts actually deliver? I mean, is this actually realistic?
Now, that's the real challenge, because we've got to have an equitable transition, because there will be people working in the coal industry, for example, who will be out of a job because we can't use coal anymore. We're exploring for coal in New Zealand. The UN General Secretary just now, you heard him on the TV, he just stated we can't start exploring it for any more coal and oil and gas. And so we do certainly need to change our behaviours, but we have to do it fairly. The emission reduction plan is coming out of national government shortly, and that will show how quickly we can possibly try and do it without leaving anybody behind. But it's local governments as well. We can't leave it all to the national government. And many cities and towns and district councils are pushing hard to reduce emissions in their localities.
There's two approaches to this, right? So there's reducing the amount of greenhouse gases we emit in the first place. And then there's a lot of research going into, OK, once those gases are there, how do we remove that carbon dioxide from the environment? And a lot of research is going into that. How soon can you see that technology actually being able to be in use?
Well, it's not just technology. It's already happening, of course, because we are growing more trees and they remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as they grow. So they're carbon sinks, and we've relied on those for a long time. Soil carbon, if we can increase the content of carbon in the soil, and there's various ways of doing that through increasing organic matter, that locks up the carbon in the soil. As well as that, there's the carbon dioxide capture and storage technologies, which is where from a power station or equivalent, we collect the carbon dioxide and store it underground in the disused gas field. That's been talked about for a long time, 20, 30 years. There's one or two examples. And we don't actually know the impact of storing that carbon yet, though, do we? So that's a key knowledge gap, that we don't know what that would do to the environment once it's restored. That's true. There are examples that have been going for 30 years, but New Zealand, of course, is earthquake prone. So if we put it down a hole and put a cover on the top, then an earthquake could release it in theory. If a whole load of carbon dioxide is released at once, it could smother any living organisms or people nearby. So there is a risk. So the carbon dioxide capture and storage, we have to look at it. We have to put research into it. And it's one of the things that will help us to reach these targets.
Professor, it's Ryan here with the silly questions. So you said this is your fifth report, your fifth IPCC climate change report. In any of them, does it say how long before we all would die?
No, it doesn't say that. The mitigation reports are always showing you, it's based on the science. It brings all the science together into how we can reduce emissions. And it's left up for governments to then develop policies. We don't prescribe policies.
Don't you think, no, I know, but don't you think if you told us the date at which we would all be dead, the planet would be over, we might do something?
I could tell you that last year in New Zealand alone, we spent $340 million of insurance claims against extreme weather events, and that doesn't include infrastructure and roading and people who weren't uninsured, etc. And so there's going to be a cost on everybody, and there will be a risk in the future of food supplies if there's droughts and floods. And those are the sorts of things that will happen. It will happen over a period of time, it's already started. So
yeah,
we
so
talk about
it's heat waves, it's drought, it's fires, it's storms, it's all those kinds of things that the report points to, isn't it?
That's right.
Massey University Professor Ralph Sims, thank you very much. Sorry we have to leave it there.